believe that you're a cheater, and I believe that you
needs these guys. Jake needs Tyson and needs all these other people, because everybody's going to tune in to hope that Mike Tyson knocks him out.
Right.
They're not tuning in because they think Jake Paul's a great fighter and they want to see him compete.
Tyson's wild promos and dramatic face-off clips weren't just side projects. They were the main attraction. The man knows how to ride the hype train straight to the bank. And it's true. Once a YouTuber, always a YouTuber. Dana White didn't just bash Jake for chasing fame. He exposed numerous shady dealings, making it feel like a courtroom drama. By the end, I found myself with even more reasons to dislike Jake Paul than I ever thought possible.
on earth thinks that you really wrote that. You're too stupid. And for those of you that don't know, if you've ever watched one of his fights and you see when they do the stare down, the guy that's...
Before anyone brushes off Dana's words, remember he transformed the UFC from a backyard brawl into a global multi-billion-dollar empire. His knowledge of the fight game is undeniable. When Dana speaks, even the loudest skeptics have to listen, because he truly knows his stuff.
Stupid. And for those of you that don't know, if you've ever watched one of his fights and you see when they do the stare down, the guy that's standing in the middle with the warlock nose and the big warlock wart on his face, apparently that's his manager. And that guy used to be an accountant for me. And let's just say this, he no longer works for me, and I think he's a scumbag.
Dana's fury toward Jake isn't just personal. It's a deeper, more profound anger. To Dana, Jake has disgraced the entire sport he built, reducing boxing to a cheap spectacle for clicks and cash. His rage intensifies when he targets Jake's manager, sarcastically calling him the Warlock. This man, once an accountant for the UFC, couldn't handle the pressure and, according to Dana, has now been demoted to Jake Paul's errand boy. Dana paints him as a cautionary tale, a former number cruncher now clinging to Jake's social media circus in a desperate attempt to stay relevant. The mockery is palpable, and Dana makes sure to emphasize how far the so-called Warlock has fallen from any form of respectability, underscoring just how ridiculous the whole situation has become.
I didn't even know the guy was fighting. When Jake Paul lost to Fury, I haven't really paid attention to Jake Paul.
I have love for Jake too.
If you think Dana's trash talk ends there, think again. He cranks it up in true fight promoter style, issuing a challenge to Jake Paul that goes far beyond words. Dana demands a steroid testing showdown, questioning if Jake's biceps are the result of hard work and protein shakes. He calls for random drug tests for Jake, claiming he's hiding something. To prove his own transparency, Dana proposes a wild deal. He'll undergo random cocaine testing for 10 years. 10 full years of drug testing, all to prove that he's clean and has nothing to hide.
You think that you can do it better than we do. We're doing this whole thing wrong. You could treat the fighters better than we do. Knock yourself out. Go start your own business. It's easy to do. Get the Warlock on it. The Warlock can get it started for you. What you and the Warlock should be focused on is your business.
Jake, this steroid versus cocaine drama has turned into a spectacle bigger than some actual fights. It's a full-blown media frenzy, with headlines everywhere and social media users losing their minds. Suddenly, the Tyson versus Jake Paul matchup isn't just about who's getting knocked out in the ring, it's drenched in controversy. Accusations are flying and egos are clashing like heavyweights. Dana's challenge isn't just spicy trash talk, it's a battle cry, demanding Jake prove he's not just smoke and mirrors. The hype around the fight has shifted from punch predictions to wild steroid accusations, making this showdown even more explosive.
He fights older people that are smaller. It's all the same.
Jake Paul has never been one to shy away from stirring up drama, especially when it involves a heated debate. This time, he's diving deep into the fighter pay issue, portraying himself as the noble warrior fighting for underpaid MMA athletes. The same guy who made his name pulling pranks and causing chaos on YouTube is now acting like the Robin Hood of the fight world. He loves to throw out eye-catching numbers, $600,000, claiming that's what top-tier UFC heavyweights make on average. Then he hits you with the comparison. $30 million, the jaw-dropping payday for heavyweight boxing champs. According to Jake, this is a massive injustice, and naturally, he positions himself as the only hero brave enough to call it out.
I'm ready to roll, buddy. I don't use cocaine. Do you use steroids? Let's do this, Jake.
But don't expect Dana White to buy into this narrative. He comes in hot, armed with sarcasm so sharp it could cut through steel. Dana openly scoffs at Jake's supposed understanding of fighter pay and the business side of it. The way Dana dismisses Jake's claims is almost comical, highlighting just how out of touch Jake is with the real workings of the fight industry.
Jake, you never responded to the challenge. You publicly stated that I use cocaine. I do not. So I told you you could randomly cocaine test me for the next 10 years. I believe that you're a cheater, and I believe that you use steroids. So I want to randomly steroid test you.
Dana White didn't hold back when Jake Paul accused him of using cocaine. The mastermind behind the UFC's transformation into a global powerhouse wasn't about to listen to a YouTuber lecture him on finances. Dana told Jake that if he really thought he was so clever, he should stop complaining and start his own MMA organization. With a sarcastic challenge, Dana says it's easy to do, throwing in an eye-roll tone that clearly implies the opposite. It's almost as if Dana is daring Jake to put his millions where his mouth is, warning him that running a fight promotion is far more brutal than he could ever imagine.
Why do you think he's not paying fighters fairly?
It's all greed and it's all going to fill Dana White's pocket.
This isn't just playground banter, it's a clash of two worlds. On one side, you have Dana White, the man who transformed the UFC into the gold standard of mixed martial arts, working with legends like Khabib Nurmagomedov, who retired undefeated and untouchable. On the other, you have Jake Paul, whose entire combat sports career revolves around viral marketing stunts, taking on retired, often smaller MMA stars. Jake tries to paint Dana as a greedy tycoon, profiting off the sacrifices of underpaid fighters, but Dana sees right through the act. He calls Jake out as a self-serving fraud, pretending to care about fighter welfare only when it suits his brand and amplifies his public image.
Didn't even know half the guys' fucking names on the card. And the list goes on and on with that guy.
Khabib, he retired. Do you think there's ever a chance that Khabib would come back and fight? Is there a number that you can say, Khabib, we got 20 million, we got 25 million?
I threw the numbers at him, trust me.
Jake Paul's so-called crusade for fighter pay gets even more ridiculous when you look at his own fight lineup. He's made millions boxing against retired fighters like Tyron Woodley and Ben Askren, athletes who are past their prime and much smaller than Jake. Yet, Jake keeps bragging about his earnings as if he's a champion for justice. Dana finds it laughable, and honestly, it feels hypocritical. If Jake truly wanted to make a difference, he'd be doing more than just talking. He'd be putting his money and effort into real change, not using the issue for publicity.
He's making money. If you can...
you making real money, Dana, or are you making...
I don't know. That I don't know. I don't know what he's really making.
With the added spectacle of Jake Paul facing Mike Tyson, things get even messier. Tyson is a living legend, but he's also pushing 60, not the unstoppable force he once was, the man who could knock someone out in seconds. Yet here he is, about to face off against Jake, who's 3 decades younger. The age gap is almost insulting, and critics like Bernard Hopkins aren't holding back. Hopkins, who knows a thing or two about longevity in boxing, argues that Jake and Tyson shouldn't even be in the same conversation, highlighting the absurdity of the matchup.
Was also considered a boxer, and he lost. So if you can keep fighting fucking 50-something-year-olds...
You don't think Tyson has a chance?
And making a living at it. I think that Mike Tyson has a puncher's chance against anybody.
As much as people criticize, they can't resist the spectacle. It's like watching a train wreck. You just can't look away. The idea of a 58-year-old Mike Tyson landing one of his legendary punches on Jake Paul's face is the stuff of viral dreams. Former UFC fighter Brendan Schaub breaks down the possibilities. If Jake knocks out Tyson, everyone will call him a bully for beating up an old man. If Tyson knocks out Jake, it's game over for Jake's boxing credibility. The worst-case scenario? A dull decision win that leaves everyone, including Netflix, wishing they'd invested their money elsewhere. Jake's preparation is making waves too. He's packed on muscle and moved up to... Jake Paul may be packing on muscle, moving up to heavyweight, and trying to look like a serious contender, but critics, led by Dana White, aren't impressed. Dana believes Jake's game is rigged, always fighting retired or undersized opponents. Despite all his gains and Instagram-worthy workouts, people are left wondering if Jake can actually handle an older version of Tyson, or if this is just another chapter in Jake's endless campaign to stay relevant and keep the cash flowing. Ultimately, this isn't just about a fight. It's a battle over respect in the sport. Jake Paul is trying to position himself as a crusader for fighter rights, but his actions tell a different story. Dana White isn't letting that slide, calling out every contradiction and exposing Jake as a guy who cares more about his brand than the sport he claims to defend. This saga isn't just a clash of fists. It's a war of words, egos, and reputations.